Hello once again, I'm Don Jackson. It was Milton who wrote, "And pomp and feast and revelry, with mask and antique pageantry, such sights as youthful poets dream on summer eves by haunted stream." I'd like to invite you to a masquerade, but keep in mind that the only thing that's real that isn't masked is the heartbeat of the internet. Eleanor Hoyt Wiley wrote, "In masks outrageous and austere, the years go by in single file, but none has merited my fear, and none has quite escaped my smile." I'm reminded of that scene in Andrew Lloyd Webber's The Phantom of the Opera, which features all the masked revelers on the grand staircase, and then, mysteriously, all of a sudden, the Phantom appears among them. Masks have always been appropriate in elegant society. Consider Carnival in Venice, and at the other end of the spectrum, of course, is Mardi Gras in New Orleans. The masks you see in the parade along Bourbon Street are usually not that ornate as the ones in Venice, but you can still find some very delicate masks in stores in the French Quarter. One of my sources explained one of the possible origins of the fan, and it does have something to do with masks. And I quote, "The Chinese claim to have invented the fan. One legend is that Long Sin, daughter of a mandarin, was attending a feast of lanterns. Being very warm, she took off the mask she was wearing. Holding it close to her face to hide her features, she waved it to and fro. The other ladies of the court thought Long Sin did this very gracefully, imitated her, and this was the origin of the screen fan." This source also reports, among civilized people, false faces or masks are lightly put on and lightly taken off. It is therefore surprising to learn what a fearful importance the mask has. The mask may represent an animal, a human being, or a supernatural being. For primitive folk, it is the sign of mysteries and terrors such as are felt by us only in the wildest nightmares. Before there was religion, there was magic. Our ancestors believed that their souls could enter into other beings. They believed that they themselves could be possessed by strange spirits. They also believed if a person put on a mask representing an animal or demon, he would, by a mysterious power, become the animal or demon he was imitating. End quote. There are still people in remote parts of the world who assign magical properties to masks. You might even find those masks on the faces of polite society. The great film actress Liv Ullmann was once quoted as saying, "Nobody is one block of harmony. We are all afraid of something or feel limited in something. We all need somebody to talk to, but maybe instead of going to a psychiatrist, it would be good if we talked to each other. Not just pitter-patter, but really talk. We shouldn't be so afraid because most people really like this contact. That you show you are vulnerable makes them free to be vulnerable too, and then we don't wear these masks. It's so much easier to be together when we drop our masks." Have you ever considered that the seasons wear masks as well? If you are observant, though, you will see the masks removed. John W. Walker wrote, "With the falling of the leaves, the masks of green are stripped off the hillsides, revealing the diversity and uniqueness of each ridge and valley, rock and stream, old shed or oil well hitherto unseen. It is in the winter, when the hills bear their innermost selves, that we get to know them. Then, in the spring, when the masks return, we can look at the hills as old friends few others understand. So it is with people. Most of the time we wear our masks, but during the difficult times, during the winters of our lives, we shed our facades and reveal all the intricacies of the unique beings we are. It is in these moments that friendships are formed and we experience one another as few others. One of my sources for this webcast is a very old edition of the Britannica. This writer says, and I quote, "Masks were important in the ancient Greek drama and were usually made out of painted canvas. Because of the size of the Greek amphitheaters, these masks were huge creations, covering often not only the whole head, but the entire body of the actor. Openings were left for eyes and mouth. Sometimes tubes to make the voice louder were put in. There were comic masks with features twisted out of shape, and tragic masks painted to show noble suffering. Masks were widely used in the drama of the Middle Ages. They are still used in sacred and historical plays of the Orient. In modern drama, the dramatist Eugene O'Neill used them very effectively, especially in The Great God Brown. However, masks no longer have a supernatural meaning. They have lost their power, and some have become nothing more than toys used by children on Halloween." That from my source. Khalil Gibran in The Prophet wrote, "Then a woman said, 'Speak to us of joy and sorrow.' And he answered, 'Your joy is your sorrow unmasked. And the self-same well from which your laughter rises was oftentimes filled with your tears. And how else can it be? The deeper that sorrow carves into your being, the more joy you can contain. Is not the cup that holds your wine the very cup that was burned in the potter's oven? And is not the lute that soothes your spirit the very wood that was hollowed with knives? When you are joyous, look deep into your heart, and you shall find it is only that which has given you sorrow that is giving you joy. When you are sorrowful, look again in your heart, and you shall see that in truth you are weeping for that which has been your delight." Khalil Gibran in The Prophet. No wonder the theatrical masks of comedy and tragedy are of the same design, variations on the same theme. You can understand why Greek drama relied on masks when some of their mythological creations sometimes wore them to move about anonymously among the people. Sometimes even their gods came in disguise. Have you ever heard the legend of Philemon and Baucis? In Greek mythology, a pious Phrygian couple who hospitably receive two wayfarers, actually Zeus and Hermes, in disguise when their wealthier neighbors turn away the pair. As a reward for their hospitality, Philemon and Baucis are saved from a flood that drowns the rest of the country. Their cottage is turned into a temple, and they are granted their wish to die at the same moment, being turned into trees, an oak and a linden. I mentioned some curious uses for the mask. At times, the mask is itself considered a demon or other supernatural being, and is respected by its makers as such. This is true of a tribe in New Guinea, where they treat the masks with respect, talk to them as if they were alive, and refuse to part with them. Certain of the masks they even regard as guardian spirits and appeal to them for fine weather, help in the chase and in war, and so forth. That excerpt from Fraser's The Golden Bough. And if you think that's strange, there is another society where some people even refuse to take their masks off. They might live their entire lives disguised. The only time the mask is removed is when they are in the safety and anonymity of their homes. Strange, don't you think? Now, what would you say if I told you it's not ancient peoples, but modern Western society? Have you ever met someone you felt was putting one over on you? Is there someone you work with or know casually who seems to be hiding who they really are behind a facade or false front? They're all around us every day. Sometimes they find comfort and security blending into the crowd. One of the best hiding places known to modern man. Charles C. Finn penned one of the most powerful writings on masks. This is called Please Hear What I'm Not Saying. Don't be fooled by me. Don't be fooled by the face I wear, for I wear 1,000 masks. Masks that I'm afraid to take off, and none of them are me. Pretending is an art that's second nature with me, but don't be fooled. For God's sake, don't be fooled. I give the impression that I'm secure, that all is sunny and unruffled with me, within as well as without. Confidence is my name, and coolness my game, that the water's calm and I'm in command, and that I need no one. But don't believe me, please. My surface may seem smooth, but my surface is a mask. Beneath this lies complacence. Beneath dwells the real me, in confusion, in fear, and aloneness. But I hide this. I don't want anybody to know it. I panic at the thought of my weakness and fear of being exposed. That's why I frantically create a mask to hide behind, a nonchalant, sophisticated facade to help me pretend, to shield me from the glance that knows. But such a glance is precisely my salvation, my only salvation, and I know it. That is, if it's followed by acceptance, if it's followed by love. It's the only thing that will assure me of what I can't assure myself, that I am worth something. But I don't tell you this. I don't dare. I'm afraid to. I'm afraid your glance will not be followed by acceptance and love. I'm afraid you'll think less of me, that you'll laugh at me, and your laugh would kill me. I'm afraid that deep down I'm nothing, that I'm no good, and you will see this and reject me. So I play my game, my desperate game, with a facade of assurance without and a trembling child within. And so begins the parade of masks, and my life becomes a front. The conclusion now of this powerful writing by Charles C. Finn, and again I quote, I idly chatter to you in the suave tones of surface talk. I tell you everything that is really nothing, and nothing of what's really everything, of what's crying within me. So when I'm going through my routine, do not be fooled by what I'm saying. Please listen carefully and try to hear what I'm not saying, what I'd like to be able to say, what for survival I need to say, but what I can't say. I dislike hiding, honestly. I dislike the superficial game I'm playing, the phony game. I'd really like to be genuine and spontaneous, and me. But you've got to help me. You've got to hold out your hand, even when that's the last thing I seem to want. Only you can wipe away from my eyes the blank stare of breathing death. Only you can call me into aliveness. Each time you're kind and gentle and encouraging, each time you try to understand because you really care, my heart begins to grow wings, very small wings, very feeble wings, but wings. With your sensitivity and sympathy and your power of understanding, you can breathe life into me. I want you to know that. I want you to know how important you are to me, how you can be the creator of the person that is me if you choose to. Please, choose to. You alone can break down the wall behind which I tremble. You alone can remove my mask. You alone can release me from my shadow world of panic and uncertainty, from my lonely person. Do not pass me by. Please, do not pass me by. It will not be easy for you. A long conviction of worthlessness builds strong walls. The nearer you approach me, the blinder I strike back. I fight against the very thing I cry out for, but I am told that love is stronger than walls, and in this lies my hope. Please try to beat down those walls with firm hands, but with gentle hands, for a child is very sensitive. Who am I, you may wonder? I am someone you know very well, for I am every man you meet, and I am every woman you meet.